Well, Brad, you have seen a lot of highs and lows through all these Gamecock teams. You get to be more behind the scenes than, someone like me in the media gets to. So you've been able to see a lot unfold over the years. Do you have favorite memories with Gamecock women's basketball, maybe with other sports that you've seen throughout your time with South Carolina?
Yeah, there's a lot because as we talked about earlier, when you get to know the kids, the players, you enjoy the that behind the scenes stuff maybe more than some of the games themselves. But in terms of the games, obviously the national championships with women's basketball are the highlight of anyone's career, especially in my position, because one, you never know you're going to get there if you're going to get there, because you can do this your entire life and never get there. I've been fortunate. We've been to 4 national championships, won 3 of them. They're all special. The first one, because it was the first one,
Yeah.
was special, and you just didn't know if it was ever going to happen or happen again. The second one was great because of it was Aaliyah Boston, and how can you not love that lady?
Yeah.
It was just terrific, and that whole crew, that group. And then when they won it a couple of years ago, because it was so unexpected, because you had graduated all 5 starters and you had these other kids come in, and then you go in and you go undefeated. What?
Yeah.
So those obviously will always stick out. I think with softball, I believe it was 2018, the last time the Gamecocks hosted a regional prior to this year. They were coming out of the losers bracket and ended up winning, and they beat, I'm trying to think, I think it was Hofstra. It was either Hofstra or Liberty. I know both of them were in the tournament. It was a walk-off home run by Kristen White, first baseman, to win it. And it was amazing because it was a walk-off, but because of her story. Her father had passed away, I think, right before the season started, and we'd actually done a story on Gamecocks Online with her, and she was great. And her dad was her best friend, and she hit that, and when she hit it, it still chokes me up to think about it. I can remember as soon as she hit it, like I was feeling emotional. My broadcast partner, who's a former Carolina pitcher, Dr. Megan Matthews Bunning, I could tell she was tearing up. And producer got in my ear and said, just lay out, because they were going to let the pictures, tell the thing. And I just pushed the button back and said, I can't talk anyway, because it was so emotional. And if her, of all people, hitting that walk off, and we flashed to her mom and her family in the stands, and then the tears from the opposing pitcher, and then the tears of joy when she crosses the plate, and it was like probably 30 seconds or so of me not talking. It felt like more, but I couldn't talk, and then finally started talking again. But that's one of my favorite non-championship moments, just because of who did it.
Yeah, I can tell that
Yeah.
it's still like here.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I show it sometimes in my class that I teach, just different clips and stuff, and like every time I watch it, it gets me. Like and it probably always will.
I love stories like that and moments like that. Those are moments that you can't plan, they're not
Right.
scripted. It's
Yeah.
just like one of those like, wow, how did that just happen? Another behind the scenes story that I actually just thought of, and if you want to talk about it, you can, because we share something where we are 2 of the few that got to go to Paris
Yes.
with the South Carolina women's basketball
Yeah.
team, and that's always like a highlight, not just my career, but like my life. And so Brad was one of the few that got to be part of that whole experience, and I don't know how I thought of this, but it just hit my mind. And if you don't want to share this, you can, but do you remember? It was an interesting day because it was another country. This game, was so historic, but like you had technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Did you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was like the game was close to starting.
Yeah, people don't know. We almost didn't make it on the air because you go to our radio broadcasts are usually done basically through an Ethernet line, is how my equipment is plugged into, and that's how it gets broadcast to the radio and online and things like that. And so of course, we had ordered an Ethernet line for me to be, we're there all week and nothing is set up. There's no lines, anything. And, we're there for shoot around in the morning, still nothing set up. I get there, 2 hours before game, they're working on it. And I'm going, oh, boy.
Yeah, like, what does that mean?
Because my pregame show, is 30 minutes before. And I'm thinking, oh, boy. And they're still working on it. It's 45 minutes before game time, 15 minutes before airtime. They're still trying. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get on the air. And so they get me a line finally. Literally a couple minutes before we go on, and it won't go through to the radio station back, in the U.S. And I'm on the phone with our folks from Learfield. The main office is in Winston-Salem. Fortunately, Phil Brame, who's the general manager, is a lot smarter than me, and so he figured out a way. Basically, it was kind of like daisy chaining it, if you will, but we ran it through a place in Winston-Salem and then ran it back through the station in Columbia to get me on the air literally like 2 minutes before we go on the air. And I was just so thankful that he knew enough about the technology side, because for those that know, like for women's basketball, I broadcast by myself. I'm my engineer,
and we're in Europe.
Right,
we're in another country,
and I don't speak French anyway. So I'm trying to talk to this guy like it's not working. No working pa. I mean, it's that.
And it was like all of us, because I mean, everyone was just kind of in the same boat. We're doing this for the first time in Paris. It's a historic game. Everyone's just going like this way, trying to figure out their own business.
So
and Brad's just like running around like, help.
So we got on the air, and I'm just thankful. We got the game. It was a great game. South Carolina wins, and then as soon as the game is over, I've got a short post game show. Just we have to get ads in and do our thing, and the technician comes up and he's getting ready to pull my cord, and I'm like, no, I'm in my first commercial break, and I'm like, no, I still need that. It's like, no, we need the internet for the press conference in the back room. I'm like, you don't have enough internet for, and I'm like, you got to give me 5 minutes. He's like, no. I'm like, yes, you're giving me 5 minutes because I got to get 2 more commercial breaks in.
You're like, we got this far.
Yeah.
Paris was a learning lesson for all of us.
Yes.
I think for everyone involved, because it was, the first time all of us were doing that.
Yeah.
And so we all have a story. It was great. It was a lot of fun. We had a fantastic time. But it was a learning curve.
Yeah, and I know it's a cliche, but the food was fantastic.
It really was.
And my wife still teases me how I say croissant with a French accent instead of South Carolina croissant, because the breakfast food there was
so good.
Yeah, I became a food snob.
It was the trip of a lifetime. But anyway, technical things happen all the time. But when you're in Paris, everything feels amplified by like 10 because you're like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so
it wasn't actually my worst equipment malfunction when I was at Georgia College. Our baseball team in 1995 was playing in the national championship game of the World Series. And this is back when you do radio broadcast through phone lines. And we had this old mixer, and we're literally minutes before time, and our mixer wouldn't work. And so my broadcast partner, who, thank God, was smarter than I am, he takes it apart. He had a portable soldering kit. Okay, where it's like where you melt little pieces of metal. He figured out something had blown. He takes apart the mixer, and he's literally like sparks are flying, and he's soldering our mixer to make it work. And then literally a minute before airtime, we're on the air. We can do the national championship game. So he was my muse, if you will.
So I just want everyone, the moral of the story is that sometimes it looks great, it sounds great, but behind the scenes, we're sweating bullets.
Yeah, hair's on fire.
And those weren't the first, and it won't be the last.
And especially when you're by yourself. Again, I'm a one-man crew for women's basketball, and it's like, I don't know what to do. Get on the phone, and I've done games on my cell phone before when we've been on island trips in the Bahamas, and the equipment won't work there for whatever reason. So I've racked up some bills on my cell phone. Yeah,
you gotta love it. We all have stories, and again, it won't be the last time that happens to you, Brad. I hate to tell you.
Yeah,
that.
No, it won't. No.